Hello, and thank you again for tuning in to the next episode of the Inspire Culinary Series here at Valley Brook Country Club. Chef Shawn Culp here, and if you're like me, you love risotto. Risotto is probably one of my favorite things. Today, I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step, through the procedure and the technique on how to produce a great risotto. So why don't we get started by looking at the ingredients. So here we have a basic risotto setup. Okay, first and foremost, we need to talk about the main ingredient to this risotto, which is actually the rice. Okay, for a good risotto, you're going to want to get Arborio rice. You need Arborio rice for this particular dish. You can use other rices, but it's not going to be the same creaminess and texture. You want Arborio rice. That has the starch content that you're looking for. It's a short grain, Italian style rice. It's going to give you that creamy texture that we're looking for this particular dish. So that's first and foremost. So we have our Arborio rice, okay? The recipe for this, by the way, will be in the description of the video, so you can find it there. So we have our Arborio rice. We have a little bit of small diced onion, just white onion, small dice. A little bit of minced garlic, some whole butter, grated Parmesan cheese, chicken stock, and saffron. Now let me talk about saffron for a second here. This is saffron. You can buy this. You can find this at the store. Actually, it's the stamens of a crocus flower. Really pricey, really expensive. So a little goes a long way. Has a really nice kind of floral kind of flavor. Adds a really nice color and background to the risotto, and you'll find that in your basic risotto dishes. Saffron. So we have a little bit of saffron here for our particular risotto today. All right, so let's start cooking. I'm going to get my pan on. I'm going to get it relatively hot. Okay. I'm going to start off by adding a little bit of fat in the pan. I'm going to go a little bit of oil, not too much, just enough to coat the bottom of the saute pan. All right, now we've had our oil in the pan for a moment of time. You want to heat that up. The next thing you want to add is the onion. You want to hear a little sizzle, but you don't want to brown the onion, okay? You just want to sweat the onion at this point, just to soften and bring out the flavor of the onion. All right. If you were to brown this onion, it would throw too much of a toasted flavor to the risotto, and it will also add a brown color, which you don't want to the risotto. You want to keep the onion nice and uncolored and just soften it. That's what we're doing here. We want to sweat the onion. Once the onions start to kind of soften and become translucent, then we can go ahead and add a little bit of our minced garlic. And again, for the garlic, you don't want to brown that either. You just want to sweat it. Just kind of extracting that flavor and softening the garlic. When we do something like this, what we're trying to do is soften the product so it's not crunchy when we're done with the dish. Nobody likes crunchy onions in their risotto, so that's kind of what we're trying to achieve here. We're kind of softening the onion and concentrating that flavor. All right. Once you notice that your onions and your garlic have now softened and sweated to the point where they're translucent, then you can go ahead and add your rice to the pan. This is a vital step in this procedure, okay? So it's all about technique. The layers of technique following up to the end of the dish that need to be followed. So we sweat the onion, sweat the garlic, now we toast the rice. What we're doing here is we're actually developing a little bit of flavor on the rice by just kind of toasting it together with that onion and garlic. And it's also coating each grain of this rice with a little bit of that fat, that oil that we added to the pan. And is definitely a needed step in this process. All right. Now, once we have our rice toasted and each of those grains of rice are coated with that oil, now what we're going to do is we're going to start adding our stock. Now this is where risotto starts to become different than your other rice dishes, okay? Because we don't add all of the stock at once. We add the stock in intervals, meaning in small amounts. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of my chicken stock. So you're probably, asking yourself, how much chicken stock do I add at the beginning? Just enough to come up to the level of the rice. That's how much chicken stock you should add to this point. Now you want to get the rice simmering, okay? So the stock should be simmering at this point. And you want to stir this constantly, okay, throughout the cooking process. Why? Because you want to agitate those grains of rice and pull out that starch, that natural starch that's in that rice, to get a creamy texture at the end. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. And by the way, notice the utensil I'm using for this particular dish. It's a heat-proof rubber spatula, which is great for this. You can also use a wooden spoon, or one of those heat-proof silicone spoons will work great for this as well. I try not to use metal for this particular technique, just because metal on metal scraping constantly, since you have to constantly stir this around, metal on metal will give off a metallic flavor at the end, and also in some cases develop a gray color in the dish. So we don't want that. So I always use the rubber spatula or a heat-proof spoon for this particular dish. So as you notice now, when we zoom in on this, you can see that the stock has now almost absorbed into the rice. That is a good indication and a good time to add the next interval of stock. Again, how much stock? Just enough to come to the level of the rice. Okay? What you're doing is you're kind of adding the stock in intervals, and that rice keeps absorbing, and you're agitating those starches. And what's going to be left at the end is this really, really nice, beautiful, silky, creamy rice dish that we know called risotto. And that's exactly what's going to happen here. Now, this cooking process, depending on the manufacturer brand of rice, or what style of Arborio rice that you have, could depend on the length of cooking time. What you want to do is you want to catch this rice at the perfect texture and doneness. Not too crunchy and chalky, but not too soft and mushy either. You want to catch it what we call al dente stage, so it has a firm bite, so you can identify the grains of rice, but not be too mushy or not be chalky and raw and crunchy at the same time. So it does require a little bit of attention. I would say after 4 additions of stock, you could probably start checking your rice for doneness. Okay, so we're at 2 additions right now. Okay, so notice again, the stock has absorbed, the rice has now dried up. All right, and what we're going to do is we're going to cook this. Keep cooking this. All right, so we've had this risotto cooking for approximately 8 minutes. We're about our 3rd or 4th addition of stock. I'm going to go ahead and add my saffron to the risotto now. This is going to give a nice color and a nice flavor to the risotto. All right, so we're on our last stages of this risotto technique here. And again, we're going to try to catch this rice right when it is al dente, and then we'll finish it off. I'll show you the technique of finishing it with some whole butter and the Parmesan cheese. Now notice the saffron is giving off that nice yellow color, and the way you can tell a really, really nice quality risotto that's made with real saffron is those real nice red threads that are in there See if I can zoom in for you on there. But you see those nice little red threads? That's where you know that it is made with real saffron. Some people cheat and use turmeric, but saffron is the real deal. So we're going to go ahead and continue cooking this risotto until that rice is at that perfect texture. Alright, so while that risotto kind of finishes up here, I'm going to go ahead and start a sauteed shrimp dish. Turn the back burner on there. Get a saute pan here. Because what's great about a risotto is you can serve it as it is, or you can make it into an entree. And I'm going to make this into a nice little shrimp entree. We're going to add some oil to the pan. We have some really nice jumbo shrimp here. I'm going to season with some salt and pepper. Get our oil hot in the pan. Saute those shrimp nice and golden brown on either side. Make sure our risotto is finishing up here. Now the thing about sauteed shrimp, it doesn't take very long. Just a nice sear on either side. We'll let them rest, and then we'll build a nice little kind of sauce for them after they're sauteed. You could put anything on this risotto, anything from these sauteed shrimp to, beef short rib would be wonderful on there. Some ossobuco served with the risotto. Maybe some, sauteed vegetables if you want to keep it like kind of vegetarian. So anything could be served on top or with this risotto to make it really, really nice and special. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my shrimp. Nice golden brown on the other side. Go ahead and finish this sauce off. Alright, our risotto is doing nicely. It's really, really close to being done here. We'll finish that as soon as our shrimp are kind of done here. Stand those up. Alright, I'm going to let these shrimp rest for a second. In the pan, I'm going to go ahead and throw some little cherry tomatoes. I'm going to blister those up. Some asparagus tips. A little bit of garlic. I'm going to deglaze with a little bit of white wine. I want to reduce this wine 50%. A little lemon juice. Lemon zest. Salt and pepper. All right, I'm going to monte some whole butter in here just to get a really, really nice sauce. Add our shrimp back to the sauce. All right, now I'm going to finish up this risotto for you. So we take our risotto, and the proper way to finish a risotto is whole butter, some hard ripened cheese, which I'm going to use Parmesan Reggiano. You can use Romano if you would like, or any type of hard ripened cheese, Asiago, but Parmesan is usually the go-to. You just kind of stir those in. That butter is going to give it a really nice silky richness and a nice shine. That Parmesan cheese is going to give it a little nice, saltiness and a rounded flavor. Now, the risotto should be really, really relaxed. So when I put it on the plate, it should kind of relax like hot lava on the plate. So I'm going to add a little bit of stock to get that texture that I want. Get that really nice, creamy risotto texture. Notice the grains of rice, you can still identify those. And it's a really nice texture. So we're ready for plate up. I'm going to go ahead and get my plate. All right. I'm going to add my risotto. Beautiful. Notice it just kind of relaxes like that. I'm going to go ahead and add my shrimp. Some tomatoes. Asparagus. Parmesan cheese. Shavings. And then finally some scallion, just to kind of give it some freshness. And there you have it. Risotto Milanese with sauteed shrimp, tomatoes, and asparagus. Hope you enjoy it. I'll see you at the next episode.